Thank you. That was beautiful. I hope Buzz kept the piano in the house all the time so he can enjoy that beautiful music. That's a real treat. We're now going to hear from each of the children. Start with the oldest, Kirk, then Sandra, Janelle, Deborah, Craig, Corey. And then following their remarks, we'll have a musical number by Cindy Holyoke and Linda Lewis in the garden.
Well, let me start by saying we appreciate Rita and her song. I know that she played the piano often for Dad, and he loved hearing her music, and so we wanted to make sure that we included her in this program. Rita and Dad have been together for many years, and she took good care of him and was a good company, and she was a real blessing to him. So I'm going to try and hold myself together here because probably the worst gift my father gave me was that whenever I start getting emotional, I just cease to be able to talk. So I'm going to try and hold my emotions in check and see if I can get through this. But we really appreciate everybody that's come to the service today. We appreciate all the many cards and visits, the food that's been given to us, just so many blessings from so many people. We live in a blessed community. We have wonderful family all around us, and we're really grateful. So the first thing I wanted to do was just read Dad's obituary. Many of you probably already saw this, but wanted to read it, and I think it gives a pretty good picture of his life. And then after that, I have a letter that Leo wrote that I also want to read. He fills in a lot of details that are really neat to hear. And Leo couldn't be here today. His wife's daughter was getting married today, and of course they had plans for that long before Dad passed away. But anyway, we're definitely we have Leo in our thoughts and wish he was here. Anyway, here we go already. Carl Dwayne Buzz Crowley passed away peacefully on August 6, 2024 in Mesa, Arizona. Born on November 4th, 1936 in Cortez, Colorado to J.W. and Marjorie Crowley, the Buzz's life was as vibrant and enduring as the landscapes he loved and as full of adventure as his favorite road trips. Buzz was the oldest son of 5 boys and 1 girl. His parents settled in Eastland, Utah just as he was starting school. He graduated from Monticello High School in 1954, where he probably spent more time dreaming about the open road than doing homework. He spent his entire childhood behind the wheel of a tractor, and his love of farming continued throughout his entire life. His entrepreneurial spirit led him to partner with his father and brother to venture into the trucking industry in the early 1960s with their company, J.W. Crowley & Sons. They made their company's home base in Dove Creek while operating their grain elevator, High Country Elevators. They later morphed and grew their trucking company into High Country Transportation. They eventually sold the grain elevator and moved the company to Cortez, where they also built High Country Ready Mix. Buzz proved to be an excellent and smart businessman until his retirement in 2006, but he could never quite sit still or truly retire. Rumor has it he could park a semi with his eyes closed. Buzz's number one love of it was his family. He always said that his dad, He always said that his dad was his best friend. He would do anything for his children and grandchildren. And he showed up for them at every turn. He was a confirmed bachelor prior to marrying Sharon Miller in 1965. Together they had 7 children. They parted ways 30 years later, but continued to be committed to raising their family with values and love. Buzz worked 6 days a week for most of his life, but was home almost every night for his family. His hobbies revolved around his kids. Buzz gave his children an entrepreneurial spirit, taught them a love of reading and hard work, and gave them all an independence and courage to face the world no matter what comes. He taught them to be honest and kind and was an excellent provider for his family. These values have served them all well to this day and has filtered down through the generations. Buzz loved to travel, anywhere. He loved San Juan County and southwestern Colorado. Color rides in the fall, running to the movies in Cortez, and country music year-round were his passions. He provided an amazing life for his family, riding dirt bikes and on the waters of Lake Powell every summer, and snow skiing in the winter. To the delight of his competitive family, he developed a love of card playing later in life, where he was the undisputed champion, at least according to him. Probably a few people would dispute that, but Buzz was a man whose presence was a true gift. He was loving, generous, and wise, a beacon of guidance for many. He had too many friends to count and was always willing to lend a hand to anyone that needed his help. His legacy lives on through his siblings, Leo, Don, and Lyle, his children, Kirk, and his wife, Angela, Sandra, Janelle, Deborah, Craig and his wife, Amy, and Corey and his wife, Liz. His longtime companion, Rita, his 23 grandchildren, 2 great-grandchildren, and many loved nieces, nephews, and cousins who will continue to make him proud by emulating his example. Preceding him in death were his beloved son, Kevin, his parents, J.W. and Marjorie, and his siblings, Joanne and Philip. No doubt they're all up there having a reunion, complete with a deck of cards and a lot of laughter. Buzz's story is one of love, laughter, and the relentless pursuit of happiness. He navigated life's highways with the same skill and care he applied to his business, always ready with a helping hand or a well-timed joke. His wisdom will resonate through generations, and his generosity will be remembered as a testament to a life well lived. Carl Dwayne Buzz Crowley will be deeply missed, but his legacy will live on in the hearts of those who were fortunate enough to know and love him. So that's a pretty good picture of his life. Now Leo sent a beautiful letter here, and I want to read it. He asked me to read it, and so I'll just go through this. He said, "First, let me give regrets for our family not being here on this occasion. Our daughter Stacy is getting married this same day, and our family is in California celebrating with her." Carl Dwayne Buzz Crowley was our big brother. Buzz was 5 years older than me, 10 years older than Philip, 12 years older than Don, and about 25 years older than Lyle. To all of us except Joanne, he was our big brother, but to Joanne, he was her baby brother. In actuality, he was more like her twin brother. They were 11 months apart and inseparable. Because of the age difference, our relationships with Buzz were all somewhat different. Sorry, I didn't think I'd have a hard time reading this. But we all remember Buzz as the big brother with a heart so huge he could hardly carry it. He was always there to teach us. He was always there to teach us how we should drive a tractor, hoe a field, or any other task that needed to be done around the farm. He could be a hard taskmaster, expecting perfection from all of us and dishing out punishment if we failed to meet his expectations. His rows of beans were almost always absolutely straight and evenly spaced. He compared his planting with all the neighbors and would be disappointed if a neighbor had a neater field than he did. This was at a time before the tractors had computers to guide them. From the time he was a small boy, Buzz's goal in life was to grow up and be a farmer like Dad. Mom would often comment about how Buzz would follow Dad wherever he went and imitated his every move. After high school, Joanne went off to college at BYU. Pressure was put on Buzz to also attend college, so at the winter semester, Buzz decided to go to BYU. He cleaned up his pickup, packed up his suitcase, and off he went. About 5 mornings after leaving for college, I woke up and there was Buzz sleeping in his bed. He decided that college was not for him and came home during the night. He knew where his calling lay. As most of you know, there's not a lot of work to do on a dryland farm in southeastern Utah during the winters. Consequently, Buzz would find work beyond the farm to occupy his time when he could not be in the fields. Mostly he worked in the uranium mill at Monticello or drove trucks delivering uranium ore from the mines to the mills. He greatly enjoyed driving big trucks and being on the road. He paid a heavy price for this employment, as I am sure the exposure to radioactive material contributed to his health problems later in life. Neither Buzz nor Dad were content to spend the winter loafing or working for someone else. As a result, they teamed up with Uncle Jamie and built a grain elevator next to our house. They used the elevator to process their own grain and also beans and wheat for the neighbors. At that time, the road from the highway south to our elevator was gravel. Getting independent truckers to come down our gravel road and haul away our grain became a problem. So Dad and Buzz decided to buy an 18-wheeler. While they both drove the truck to deliver beans and wheat to such destinations as Salt Lake City, El Paso, San Luis, and elsewhere, most of the driving was done by Buzz. Both Dad and Buzz loved to travel and loved to be on the open road driving their truck. This new acquisition led to the development of an extended grain elevator operation and a substantial trucking operation. During my first year of college, I arrived home late one night to start winter break. It was about midnight, and Buzz woke me up to inform me that we were going to make a trip on the truck to El Paso early the next morning. True to form, we were on the road bright and early and drove straight through to El Paso. After unloading the beans, we drove to Muleshoe, Texas to pick up a backhaul and then drove straight back, arriving home in time to go skiing that Sunday. Buzz never ran out of energy. He liked to snow ski and water ski and travel. He eventually gave up snow skiing and water skiing, but never gave up travel. In fact, he and Rita just took a cruise up the Columbia River within the last couple of months. He and Rita enjoyed each other's company for the past several years and traveled together often. Rita, thank you for the joy you gave Buzz during your time together. Because of his generosity and sense of responsibility, many tasks fell in Buzz's lap that he did not deserve. Buzz spent a great deal of time taking care of Philip after Mom and Dad reached the point they could no longer provide for him. Buzz took care of his finances and made sure his personal needs were provided. Philip also loved to travel and loved music. Buzz, along with Gary Mahaffey in many cases, took Philip on numerous road trips and trips to see concerts and rodeos. Without the care provided by Buzz, Philip's life would have been much less rewarding. This was not an easy task, as Philip could be difficult to deal with at times. As Mom and Dad grew older and unable to drive, or at least drive any distance, Buzz provided local transportation for them and took them on numerous trips. As long as Buzz was driving the big rig, he would frequently take Dad on road trips with him, and occasionally he would take Mom as well. These trips provided a great deal of enjoyment for Mom and Dad, and I'm eternally grateful for the time Buzz spent with them. Buzz's greatest joy in life was his family. He was very proud of his children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, and loved them all passionately. He loved to have his family together, and enjoyed interacting with them and watching them interact with each other. He and his family spent many, many days together playing on Lake Powell. It is still a favorite gathering place for his children. Buzz grabbed any excuse to gather his family around him. The lowest point in Buzz's life was the death of his son, Kevin. He never recovered from that tragic accident. They are now reunited in heaven, and Buzz will be buried beside Kevin. As Buzz and I grew older, our relationship strengthened. We talked on the phone and visited often. Buzz, we all miss you very much. I can't add much to that, but we were blessed to have a good father, and we'll miss him. Thank you.
I'm trying to cry, not to cry all morning so I could get through this, but Kirk, you just ruined it for me. Sorry it took us a minute to get in here. It's like herding cats, I swear. But I want to know, Dad, we started early. So I just wanted to share some of my favorite memories of my dad. Probably the first one is just being a daddy's girl. Kirk. I loved going on the truck with him, and he took me a lot, and Janelle a lot, and I don't know how he did that, because he just squeezed us down in between the seats to sleep and slept on the floor, but somehow he did it, I don't know. Those trips were always good trips, good fun trips. I was always excited when he'd pull up into the driveway. You could almost set your clock by him, sometimes during the year, harvest not, of course, but... And I always got excited when he pulled in, unless I was in trouble. I remember, I don't know if I was excited or disappointed, but I found out he wasn't really allergic to cats. He just didn't want them in the house. I think that was very funny. Probably our best memories were at Lake Powell. We loved going to Lake Powell. I could go on for days. Next memory is one, at the time I didn't think it was a good thing. He taught me how to drive. And he'd almost always, I'd have drill team practice in the morning, and he'd let me drive in. And I swear we almost didn't make it half the time because he was going to kill me. But I look back on that, and it was one of the best memories of my life, get to spend that time with him. He loved to go on trips, and we went on a big trip. I believe it was my junior year, I can't remember, but he took us back to Nashville, to Fanfare. And that was really, really cool. Some of you, I don't know, you might not remember, but I broke my arm that year, and all these country stars signed my cast. It was a pretty cool thing. But more than anything, it was just really cool getting to see Dad enjoy every minute of the Grand Ole Opry and the old Grand Ole Opry and just all that stuff. We always loved it when he'd have a new blonde joke. And he always had a new blonde joke. I remember spending 2 hours getting ready for prom. I think that was the year I went with Murray Suttlemeyer. I'm all ready. I'm thinking I'm looking good. And I come upstairs and he says, "Well, aren't you going to comb your hair?" I didn't think he was so funny, but he thought he was funny. My senior year, I got to leave school and go work for my dad. And to this day, he is my hardest boss I ever had. And I don't know if he was just hard on us kids because we were his kids, or if he was like that to everybody. But I will say we all learned to work. We're all entrepreneurs. And most of us are early most of the time. One of my best memories is watching the sheer joy he got out of Deborah and the twins when they were little. They healed his heart from Kevin. They were such a blessing and still are. Dang it. I was going to do this without crying. When I got to Arizona for school, I went to ASU. About the end of September, 1st of October, I got a card in the mail. And it was actually addressed in his handwriting, not Claudine's, that had an elephant on the front with a Band-Aid on his nose. And the card said, "I miss you so much, it hurts." I still have that card. Before he bought his house in Arizona, he would spend almost every trip down there with me, unless my grandparents were there. He'd go stay with them, but he stayed with us a lot. And he was really great to have around, and it was so fun watching him with my kids and helping them grow up. We always appreciated his help and support. When our back was against the wall, any one of us, we were in trouble or we needed help, he was there. I loved him watch with the grandkids. Loved to watch him celebrate Marley's birthday. They had the same birthday. He thought that was really cool. I'm thankful that he got to see his kids and grandkids grow. He just loved each and every one of you. We loved all of our trips up to Cortez to visit him. My kids will still love to go. We find lots to do around there, but you know, people, yeah, we're going to Cortez for vacation. It's not the hopping place, but we loved it. We loved going to the Bardee chuck wagon. He always loved doing that. I made him go get Mexican food as much as possible, not just up here, but down in Arizona. Him deciding that canasta was pretty fun was really great for us, because when we were kids, we'd say, come play with us, come play. No, I don't like to play cards. I don't like to play cards. But now all of a sudden he plays cards. It was really fun. He and I used to celebrate our birthdays together, because my birthday was on Halloween and his was on November 4th, and so we'd meet somewhere in the middle and go to dinner. Probably my greatest memory will always be the night he passed, getting to tell him that I loved him and that we all loved him. I love you, Dad.
Good morning. It's a beautiful day to say goodbye to our dad. And so, thanks to my siblings and my tender-hearted dad, I will probably cry too. So our dad showed up in all the big moments for us, daily, weekly. Like Sandra said, when our back was against the wall, he was there. But I've been tasked with a few things. The first one is to explain to everybody where his name Buzz came from. And I'm not sure I'm right. I just go by what my grandma told me. And she said that Joanne, who was 11 months old when he was born, could not say Dwayne. They called him Dwayne. Why? I don't know. Like, Carl works for me too, but she couldn't say Dwayne, and so she called him Buzzy. And that stuck for the rest of his life. And if I'm wrong, y'all will have to share with us how that came to be. But he didn't just show up in the big moments. What makes someone so wonderful is all the small moments. And when he turned 80, he was starting to have a lot of health problems, and we were kind of concerned about how much longer we were going to have him. And thankfully, we got 7 more years, but we had a party for him. And the gift that I gave was put together with the help of my siblings, and it's this. And what it is, it's 80 things we love about you. So I'm going to share with you what we love about our dad. And some of them you'll get, some of them you won't. It doesn't matter. It was our things that made our dad special. The beaming smile on your face when you're watching your family, being an amazing father, your love and devotion to family, your strength, your courage even in the face of adversity, your coveralls. Okay, I gotta say this about coveralls. I don't know a human on earth that wears coveralls these days, but my dad wore coveralls all the time, and I think they're a great invention. He always had one in the car, and he'd be dressed up, ready to go to dinner. He'd be clean, spotless, ready to go to dinner, and he couldn't stand for the car to be dirty. So he'd pull into a car wash, put on his coveralls, completely scrub down, pressure wash the car, take off his coveralls, and he was clean and ready to go. So I think he was so particular. Your unique sense of humor, always trying to understand us, movie dates with the grandkids, your hugs, your inner handyman, your intelligence, your zest for life, how you worked 6 days a week for us. And we put in his obituary that he was home almost every night. I think he was on the truck a lot before I was old enough to remember, but every night I remember him being home. reading his book, falling asleep on the couch. He was home. He was there. Always showing and learning, showing and telling us how much you love us. The way you would rub your whiskers on our cheeks. So my dad was a very clean-shaven man, but by 5 o'clock he'd have a good shadow, and he and my granddad both loved to rub their cheeks on us. It would make us squirm and squeal and cry because it hurt. Whistling to yourself, this is a big one. He used to whistle all the time when I was a kid. I don't remember it much in the later years, but he whistled a lot. How you can laugh at yourself. Using tractors to move barbecues and hornets' nests. There's a whole story there. Reading to us. He read to us all the time. The way you cook bacon, that was his job at Lake Powell when he finally became enlightened enough to know that he needed to help. He got to cook the bacon. Early morning walks, party at the Bardee, your booming voice in the morning. So this is only applied to us, but man, he had a loud voice, and I had a healthy fear of my dad's voice, but he was not quiet in the morning. So anybody that wanted to sleep in, forget about it. That did not happen. Teaching us to drive, color rides, pulling us water skiing, weekend trips to Lake Powell, calling your girls sugar. Your blonde jokes. For real, this man's fearless because he has a lot of blondes in his life, and he always had a blonde joke. Helping to dig anything, your talent, how well you provided for us. Asking, are you going to comb your hair? He didn't just do that to Sandra, he did it to all of us. Being our best friend, caring for your parents and brother. I want to say he loved his parents. But one of the best things about my dad was how compassionate and empathetic he was. He had a very tender heart, and that's why we all cry, because he wore his heart on his sleeve. But he had a very, very tender heart for Philip. He told me that when he was little, he would take him around with him everywhere. He used to call him a little knothead, like he still called him a knothead, and I think he was 65. But he cried a lot about Philip, because he loved him so much, and he wanted him to have a good life. He loved Philip a lot. Your ability to help others, sending us on missions into college, your love and knowledge of the land, never missing a dance recital, peppermint patties, trying to make our dreams come true, your support of our church activities. He was always there. He always backed us no matter what we did. And he always said that being in an LDS community was one of the best things, whether the church was true or not. He got baptized and did other things, but he always felt like it was such a good thing to raise his children in the church. Your love for your grandkids. You always smell good. He always smelled good. He showered twice a day. I don't know another man that does this, but my dad, he would shower before he'd go to the field, and after. He always smelled good. Welcoming our spouses into the family. When he'd get frustrated, he'd say, Crowley. He said that all the time. Crowley. Your love for your friends, your work ethic, believing we can be anything. Your faith in us, traveling to new places, enduring our cooking learning curves, your talent, family vacations, your beautiful lawn, that lawn, birthday cards, burger boy, always reading a book. He probably read thousands of books in his lifetime. He was reading constantly. Early morning breakfasts, picnics on the mountain, your dependability, your love for your parents, your ability to back any trailer, smelling our hair after bath time. Kirk said to me the other day, he's like, Dad never smelled my hair. I was like, well, maybe your hair didn't smell good after bath. I don't know. But I know he smelled Kirk's because he did it to Craig and Corey. He did it to my boys. He did it to everybody. He wanted to smell, I guess, clean hair. I don't know. Late night talks about anything and everything. Your generosity, dinners with family and friends, four-wheeler and lawnmower rides, long truck drives, how much you've taught us, shaving lessons, driving to Phoenix every other weekend for the boys, helping with homework, attending the grandkids' activities, late night rides home, free gas and car washes, Sunday trips to Cortez, your tears when you said goodbye, and just being our dad. So I think he knows how much we loved him and how impactful he was in our life. And the thing he did for me, besides being there, was he taught me that no matter what comes, you stand up, you get up, and you show up for your family. No matter how bad you don't want to get out of bed, no matter what tragic and horrible things happen to you, you move forward, you fight on, and you do your best. And I think it shows in his family, because we all do our best for our dad. And we were all kind of, I think, afraid of disappointing him, so we all worked really hard to do our best. He was a great man, and we loved him so much. Thank you.
So, I thought about 100 times what I was going to say and wrote a lot of notes, and I remember nothing. So I'm just going to wing this. But my dad was the most loving, kind, generous father and grandfather any of us could have asked for. And he was my best friend. I talked to him every day, sometimes multiple times a day. In fact, I found out the night he passed that apparently he had a little fall a couple weeks ago, and he called me, and then he didn't have the guts to tell me he fell, so he just sat there and talked to me for a long time about I don't know what. It was just so silly. And Sandra was right. He did teach us good work ethic. I worked for him a lot, and I wanted to truck with him, and I was always in trouble if I was late. And he did teach everyone to be on time except me. I was late for his own funeral, but it's okay. I'm sure he's up there laughing at me. He got used to it. And everyone, we joke that he could back a semi with his eyes closed. But also, I could be anywhere in this country and call him, and he could tell me the cheapest gas and what gas station to go to. I think he could have drove across this country with his eyes closed. And he taught us all to drive tractors and back trailers. And this one time, I can't remember if I was with Tammy. It might have been me and Tammy, but it was like the first time we took our wave runner by myself. And that thing, I was going up the hill from the M&M, and that wave runner went flying off into the ditch. And I was so scared to call him. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be in so much trouble. And I called him, and he's like, oh, no, remember, I hooked it on. I forgot to put the pin in. So he wasn't mad, and he came and helped us. But he was just always there for all of us. He was like a dad to my daughter and loved all of his grandkids. And I'm just so grateful for having such a good life with him. And he'll be missed a lot.
Crybaby number 5 up here. My dad was such a great man. My siblings said a lot of great things, and I can't wing it. I had to write something down. So I wrote something down last night that I'd like to read. And
it's kind of like a letter to my dad. Dad, we had many good times. These are some of my favorites. I can do this. Going on truck trips. Man, just like the rest of everybody. He always took us on the truck, which was awesome. My favorite times were going to Moab, up to the salt mine. Such a beautiful drive. I remember all those summers on the combine, cutting wheat. I loved being in the cab with him. The scenic drives. He really taught me how to appreciate nature and the drives we took. It really has helped me later in life as a way to gather my thoughts and relieve stress. Driving is amazing. Always going out to lunch, especially when he was at work. He always took us along with the guys, Kirk, Don, Trenzo, etc. That was very educational. Going out to dinner anytime we would come to town. We had some pretty good meals. Later in life, the card games. I always knew I was competitive. Now I knew where I got it. Just like him, I wish we could win. Unfortunately, we married some pretty good card players. As my dad, he taught me many things. These are a few I want to pass on to my kids. Hard work. I think we all believe he passed on that to all of us. He was one of the most hardworking individuals I've ever known and has been a guiding influence in my life. He was so kind. No matter who we met or who we talked to, he always treated them with respect and kindness. It shows as almost no one has anything bad to say about him other than he was a hard A at times. But that is also a good thing most of the time. Faces. He had great faces. And my kids tell me all the time how I have great faces, and I'm pretty sure I got that from him. No matter what the situation, funny, embarrassing, happy, serious, not really. If you ask my kids, they say I can never be serious, just like my dad, but I'm trying. Family time, he always wanted me to be with us, no matter what or how busy he was. Hugs, he always gave the best hugs. And you knew that he would always have your back, no matter what. I always loved his sayings. There were probably lots that I have forgotten, but these are just a few that stood out. They've become a big part of me. Get up, you lazy bums. I miss those wake-up calls. Be careful. Crowley. Gosh darn it. Dang it. A few other words. Got to keep this pretty clean up here. Hello, Krager. What you up to? When he heard something surprising or when he was making fun of himself. And lastly, his laugh. In the end, I wanted to tell a story about his laugh. He was so funny. the night before he died. And little did I know that this would be the last time I heard him laugh, but will be forever remembered. Anyway, we were in this hospital room. We were talking about space, the space station, you know, NASA can't get it together. Anyway, Corey, my brother, is kind of a space geek, which is a good thing. Anyway, he misremembered. We were talking about the space station and how it travels around the Earth Corey said once every 19 minutes or so. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty fast. And so Corey, you know, trying to be as accurate as possible, space geek. He looked it up, thinking about it for a minute, wanted to be accurate. He said he found out it was once every 90 minutes. Dad looked at us and laughed a little bit. Man, they're slow. We just all got a good laugh about it, and it was the best. Man, I'm gonna miss him. We're all gonna miss him. We love you, Dad. Okay. Number 6 here. Best for last, right? I'd write some things down. I do like to wing it most of the time. But there's not much I can say that hasn't already been said. But I wanted to share some of my favorite moments, memories, you know, what we got from my dad. So, at least for me, we got his good looks, you know, as you can tell. We got his loud voice. Jackson knows a little bit about that, my youngest son. I feel like we got some of his humor. My kids were telling me how I like to do that to them. I like to wake them up in the morning and say, "Get up, you lazy bums." I feel like we took that from him. One thing that I don't think has been shared, but he was a guilt trip master, you know? Like he was a Jedi and we were Padawans, you know? And we took that from him. I feel like we're all good at that. I mean, it's a good thing, right? It's a good thing. Miss his laugh. I feel like we got his laugh as well. Yeah, he, whenever he got startled or he'd screw up or something like that, and he'd say, "Way to go, Crowley," you know? Just, I love that. I feel like I say that all the time. I feel like I got his occasional cuss word that he would say. I feel like whenever I get mad or something like that, one tends to slip out, and I always tell my kids that I learned that from Grandpa. Couple favorite stories, at least that I can remember, is, you know, this just goes to who he was. When we were younger, we'd go on motorcycle rides, and I remember me and Craig got old enough that we kind of rode by ourselves. And there was one time that we were kind of going on I can't remember exactly where it was, but it was a little steep and it was a little gravelly, and I was kind of slipping, and I didn't want to ride my motorcycle anymore. So he was on a 4-wheeler, and I remember I was like, "I just want to go on the 4-wheeler with you, Dad," and so he made it happen. He put me on his 4-wheeler, and Craig was a lot more brave. I feel like that's because I was the youngest, maybe. A scaredy cat. Another good story, at least later in life, me and my wife went to BYU, and here's another thing I never knew about him. He never mentioned this. It was that he tried to go to BYU. Never knew that. But we'd be, I don't know, this is when we had Naomi. We were a young family, and we were pretty busy, as everybody probably knows, during those times. And he'd call me up, because he'd call me pretty much every week, and he'd call me up, and he'd say, "Corey, I'm 5 minutes out. You want to go to dinner?" And I'm like, "Wait, you're 5 minutes from Provo?" I mean, he was either in Phoenix or Cortez, and I'm like, "Wait, you just randomly came up just to see me?" So he always surprised us that way. And me and my wife would always say, like, "Man, I wish he'd give us some heads up, But we didn't mind, because he always took care of us. He always paid for dinner. Sometimes he'd fill up our gas tank, Being poor college students, that always helped. He was always there for us. A couple other things is, I remember he was always with a book. He'd always fall asleep with the book on his chest, And he used to love to watch Jazz games, Stockton and Malone. Now, I can't say I'm a Jazz fan these days, but I did like watching those games with him. York peppermint patties. He always had those. Another fun story was when we moved into our first house, we got this old swing set. I believe it was from Deborah. But I told him that I was going to put it together in my backyard. And, he was like, "Do you need any help?" I was like, "Sure, you can come over and help." And he shows up, and, he's usually in a nice dress shirt and some jeans or something like that. But when we got to his house, out came those coveralls. He put those on, and he's in his work boots at that point. I mean, we were putting screws into stuff. That's all it was. It wasn't anything crazy. I think I was in shorts and sandals or something like that. He was in his coveralls. I love that. But that was his version of rolling up his sleeves when anything needed to get done. I love that. So, to end, we received a lot of great attributes from our dad. And I like to read occasionally. I feel like maybe not that one, but I do like to read. And I came across this quote. And it was by an unknown author. And I feel like it was maybe written for my dad. So I'll read it. It says, quote, and this kind of sums up his life. "A man's worth is not determined by the money he makes or the power he holds. But by the kindness and love he gives to those around him. True wealth is not measured in riches, but in the depth of one's relationships. The number of lives touched and the love shared. A good man leaves behind a legacy of love, compassion, and wisdom. One that endures far beyond the years he spent on this earth. I'm going to say Buzz Crowley right there. Dad, we love you. You were a good man. You are a good man. And you made us good men. We love you.
We'll be accompanied by Pam Wheeler.
I come to the garden alone, while the dew is still on the roses, and the voice I hear falling on my ear, the Son of God discloses, and he walks with me, and he talks with me, and he tells me I am his own, and the joy we share as we tarry there, none other has ever known. He speaks, and the sound of his voice is so sweet, the birds hush their singing, and the melody that he gave to me within my heart is ringing, and he walks with me, and he talks with me, and he tells me I am his own, and the joy we share as we tarry there, none other has ever known. I'd stay in the garden with him, though the night around me be falling, but he bids me go through the voice of woe. His voice to me is calling, and he walks with me, and he talks with me, and he tells me I am his own, and the joy we share as we tarry there, none other has ever known. This is yours.
I'd like to thank Pam, Cindy, and Linda for that beautiful musical number. Linda had $1 for every funeral she sang at. She be a lot wealthier. She does a beautiful job. I really appreciate that. I hadn't heard her for a long time. It's been a while. I didn't know if she still did it, but that was beautiful. Thank you. Well, I've got to see Buzz in a different light today. I really appreciate the remarks that have been made here today. I think he would be, or is, so proud of his children and honored by the comments they've made here today, and I'm sure he's very pleased, very, very pleased. So I appreciate that. The only thing I was worried about was I used to raise a lot of beans for the Crowleys, and Buzz must not have looked down my rows. They were never very straight. I always heard you could get more beans by a crooked row than a straight row, so I never worried too much about it. But I really appreciate the Crowley family and the influence they've had in my life. They've always been good to me, and every time I take a drink of water here in Eastland, I think about Buzz and Kirk and the work they put into really the water system here in Eastland. You know, we've expanded it somewhat, but they were the ones who laid the foundation here and did a lot of work, had a lot of foresight, trying to make things better and more improved, and they've been an integral part of the Eastland community. There'll be a meal afterwards, and Kirk has invited those who can stick around to come and be a part of that. And so, following the graveside service, you're all invited back if you so choose to. Want to thank again Sister Pam Wheeler for the beautiful prelude and postlude music. We know the pallbearers: Brandon Crowley, Jared Crowley, Cody Choles, Brendan Crowley, Jackson Crowley, Mariah Murray, honorary pallbearers: Pierce Murray, Camden Murray, Justice Murray, Ryan Crowley. We'll have a song at the graveside in case you're not there, the Crowley children, and grave dedication will be by Craig Crowley. We'll bring this service to a close by Lindsay Crowley will offer the closing prayer. Following her prayer, we've got to make our way with the casket this side of the curtain and through that second door back there. And so any of you sitting in that area where we got to make that bend, you may have to move. So just a little notification there. I'm sure the mortician will get you moving if I don't. So, Lindsay.
Our dear Heavenly Father, we are so grateful for this day that we could come together as a family. We are so grateful for Granddad Buzz, for everything that he's done in our lives, and for the time that we had with him. We're grateful for the laughter that he always brought, and for the happiness that he brought into our lives. Please bless it as we continue on, that we will always remember him, and that we will be able to be examples of the light and love that he showed us, and that we will always remember what he taught us. And we're so grateful for this family and the friends and everything that we've been able to share together. And we love thee so very much, and we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen.
Will you all please rise?